The worst show of the tour. That's how we'll remember Zurich. To catch you up, this is the story of my first ever comedy tour where things kept going wrong. I woke up the morning of the show in sunny Basel, walking through some beautiful gardens with my friends there, and then it was on to Zurich. I grabbed my bags and climbed on the train and watched the idyllic Swiss countryside zipping by me. I was once again stressed about if we had managed to sell enough tickets for the show to be decent. And in hindsight, I always spent more time stressing about if people would come than my own performance. I arrived in Zurich excited to see a city I had never been to, and I did some comedy tour sightseeing, meaning I walked around the train station and then walked to the venue. It was very quaint and European feeling, but the cities were starting to melt together. Each city was different, but you could also start to see a common thread. It was different than the American strip mall sameness, but there was a sameness nonetheless. I had found a producer in Zurich who had helped me to organize the show in an Italian restaurant. I walked toward the venue and stopped for a bite to eat at a place that was too fancy for my budget. I arrived to the venue to see that I would be performing on a pallet in the entryway of the restaurant, and that there was a Halloween party at the connected bar, meaning people in costumes kept walking through to use the bathroom. The setup did not look totally ideal for comedy, but I was trying to keep my spirits up after a tough show the night before. And I had to remind myself I had sold 20 tickets, and that should be enough. I had organized a host and 2 openers, and I had agreed to pay each €50. But between that and the amount I had spent on ads, I had already run through all of the €210 I made from ticket sales. I watched the hilarious Chris Darwa murdering to close the first half of the show and realized he was hitting the perfect audience energy peak. Just like the night before in Basel, I had a much better, more experienced comedian performing before me that my jokes would struggle to follow, and boy did they. That is what went wrong with this stop of the tour, the show. Nothing that funny, maybe the room wasn't ideal, maybe I booked openers I couldn't follow, but ultimately what went wrong was the show. I suffered. And I also wasn't experienced enough to realize I could just do the highlights and leave. So I made us all suffer through all 60 minutes of the show, doing every stupid bit I had, trying crowd work with the young audience members in the front who didn't pay for tickets. It was the 2 toughest shows I'd had in a row, and to make matters worse, it had ended up a bit of a financial disaster as I lost over €150 putting on the show. After the show, I hung out with a super funny and cool dude who performed with me named Richard, and we had some good chats about comedy that helped salvage the night for me before I lumbered off to my hostel to grab a few hours of sleep before the next stop, Luxembourg, where things really went wrong.